When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. I remember that moment clearly. Not because it was loud, not because it was dramatic, but because it was quiet. She stood near the kitchen door. Her voice was calm, almost polite. She said, "Maybe it would be better if you stayed somewhere else for a while." I nodded. I even said, "Of course." But inside me, something folded in on itself. I had lived my whole life for family. Every choice, every sacrifice, every silent promise I never said out loud. And still, I felt forgotten. That night, I packed my clothes slowly. Not because there was much to pack, but because each shirt felt like a memory. Each folded sleeve felt like a goodbye. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No one asked me if I was okay. No one stopped me. And that was when I realized something painful. Sometimes you don't disappear. Suddenly. At S prime, sometimes you fade. Little by little. While still standing right there. I was not always old. When my back did not ache. When I woke up before everyone else, just to make sure the day started right. I got married young. Like many women of my time. Love was simple then. It was not about words. It was about work. My husband was quiet. He showed care through responsibility. Not through talking. We built a life slowly. Brick by brick. Meal by meal. Year by year. When our children were born, my world became smaller. But also fuller. Everything I did was for them. Cooking, cleaning, saving money, letting go of my own dreams quietly. I did not know that later can sometimes mean never. As years passed, my children grew. They became busy. They had their own lives, their own worries. I understood. Or at least, I told myself I did. When my son got married, I was happy. Truly happy. I welcomed his wife with open arms. I told myself she was now my daughter too. At first, everything was fine. Small smiles. Shared meals. Quiet respect. But slowly, the house changed. Not in big ways. In small ones. My place at the table shifted. My voice became softer. My presence became optional. No one said anything wrong. That was the hardest part. Nothing hurt loudly. It hurt quietly. It began with small things. A cup moved from its usual place. My cooking replaced with something faster. My advice no longer asked for. At first, I laughed it off. Times change, I told myself. People change. But inside, I felt myself shrinking. One evening, I suggested a family dinner. Just something simple. My daughter-in-law smiled and said, "We already ate." I nodded. Another time, I waited all day to talk to my son. When he came home, tired, he said, "Later, Mom. I'm busy." Later never came. I stopped asking questions, stopped offering opinions, stopped sharing memories. Silence became easier. I spent more time in my room, looking at old photos, running my fingers over faces that felt far away. Sometimes I wondered if I had done something wrong, if I had been too quiet or too present. It is strange how you can live in a house full of people and still feel completely alone. One night, I heard laughter from the living room, a kind of laughter that did not need me. I sat on my bed and listened. That was when I first felt invisible. Not unloved, not hated, just unnecessary. The day she asked me to leave was ordinary. No argument. No raised voice. She said it gently, as if suggesting a change in weather. She talked about space, about comfort, about how things would be easier. I nodded. Inside me, a question repeated itself. When did I become a burden? I wanted to ask my son. I wanted him to say something. Anything. but he stayed quiet. Silence can be louder than words. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to accuse, not to blame, just to say goodbye. I did not leave it on the table. I did not want drama. I placed it in my bag. I walked out early the next morning. The door closed softly behind me. No one heard it. I stayed with a relative for a while. A small room. A borrowed space. I felt lighter there, and heavier at the same time. Without chores, without responsibilities, I faced something I had avoided my whole life. My own feelings. I cried quietly at night, not because I was angry, but because I was tired. Tired of giving, tired of waiting, tired of hoping someone would notice. One afternoon, my son called. He asked if I was okay. I said, "I'm fine." That was the truth I had learned to speak. Time passed. Weeks turned into months. Something inside me began to change. I started waking up for myself, making tea slowly, sitting in silence without fear. I realized something important. I had spent my whole life being strong for others, but I had never learned how to be gentle with myself. One day, I read the letter I never gave them. I cried again. But this time, it felt different. It felt like letting go. Eventually, my son visited me. He looked older, tired in a way I recognized. We talked slowly, carefully. He said he never meant to hurt me. He said life became busy. I believed him. I also told him something I had never said before. I needed you. He nodded, tears in his eyes. Not everything was fixed that day, but something healed. I did not move back. I chose my own small place. A quiet home. A place where my presence mattered. I learned that love does not always mean staying. Sometimes it means stepping back. I still love my family. That never changed. But now I love myself too. I learned that giving everything does not always bring closeness. Sometimes it brings distance. And that is not failure. It is life. If you are listening to this and you feel forgotten, know this. Your worth does not disappear just because others stop noticing. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself. Quietly, gently, with love.